Grace, mercy, and peace to you in God the Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Maria, am I projecting out there? Can you hear me? Okay, good. I thought my batteries might have been low, but I think we're good. Go and thirst no more. That doesn't appear anywhere in the Bible. We've heard Jesus say, go and sin no more. And we're talking about the thirst that we all experience. Certainly, Jesus meets a woman at a well, and she has a specific kind of thirst, but we all thirst for something. We all have this desire, this search that we have in our lives, and that thirst is disguised by our pursuit of personal pleasures, hobbies, jobs, status, material life, existence. We all thirst for something. And sometimes we get what we are looking for, and other times we don't. There have been times in my life when I've had prayers answered pretty quickly. And I've often said, wow, that was, really? We're done? That's it? And then there's times when I'm sure you have all experienced prayer ongoing. That thirst, that desire, you're continually searching for this answer. This fulfillment of a quenching of a desire or a need that just doesn't come right away. And we wonder when and how. So Jesus is at the well, sends the disciples off to go and buy some food. Not surprisingly, he sees a woman coming whom I'm sure he knew was going to be approaching. This woman's approaching in the middle of the day, in the height of the sun. You've probably heard this message talked about before, and it's unusual for a woman to be visiting the well at this time of the day. Most women would go early in the day when they're with their girlfriends and carrying water to and from the well for their household needs. But this woman on her own in the middle of the day is there very purposefully. Her thirst, her desire is to be out of the public eye, to avoid ridicule, scorn, shame. So she figures by going in the middle of the day when nobody's around, she can maybe just sneak in, grab her water, go home, and go on with her life. And that's really what we desire, right? We just want our needs to be met. You know, if we just have everything we need, then we can just go on with our life. Everything would be great. We wouldn't have to worry about too much, because all our needs would be satisfied. As this woman approaches, Jesus says to her, give me some water. Can I have a drink? Now, instead of just giving him the drink, she immediately asks a question. Now, I will hit the pause button and tell you that this meeting people at the well theme happens at other times in Scripture, right? Moses met his wife Zipporah at a well. Eliezer, the servant of Abraham, seeking a wife for his son Isaac, met Rebekah, the future wife, at a well. Those wells, just like this one, which is in Samaria, were in foreign lands. They were outside of Jerusalem. Now, in the case of Eliezer and Rebekah, Eliezer prayed as soon as he left Abraham. Abraham said, look, go get my son a wife. Go among our people and other people and go find my son a wife. And Eliezer has no idea how he's going to do this, but he says, I'm going to go and do what my master told me to do. So he prays and he says, Lord, let's see, what's going to be the sign? Okay, Lord, when I get there, if I say to a woman, may I have a drink of water, she'll immediately give me water, and she'll respond, I'll water your camels too. That would surely be a sign that this is the woman. Well, don't you know that Eliezer shows up to the foreign land where he's going, and he sees a well, and out walks a beautiful young woman, and he walks over to her and says, young woman, may I have some water? She says, sure, here's some water, and I'll take care of your camels too. Well, the story from there goes on because Rebekah ends up marrying Isaac. I bring that up because there was this immediate response of action on the part of Rebekah. And that action in benevolence to, in service to someone else, a perfect stranger, was a demonstration of her belief in God's providence, her values as a person, and her willingness to be used in that moment. Now we go back to the woman at the well, a couple generations later, and Jesus stands before this woman. He says, give me a drink. She's like, why are you talking to me? You're a Jew. You shouldn't be talking to me. You guys don't have anything to do with it. And Jesus says, well, if you knew who you were talking to, then you'd ask me for some water, and I'd give you a drink. Her mind clicks and says, wait a second. He can fill my needs. I don't got to come to a well anymore. I can avoid this whole situation. She doesn't say, give me water. At first, she says, you got nothing to draw water with. What do you mean you're going to give me something to drink? Are you greater than Jacob who dug this well? How are you going to do this water thing? See, she's still asking questions. Jesus just answered her prayer right there in front of her, was willing to meet her needs right there and then, solve her problems presently and forever, but it was too quick. It was too easy. She can't even recognize it. And how often does that happen to us? I know it's happened to me. It happened to me just this past Friday. I told the story at the earlier service. I'll tell you again. I'm here on Friday night, and I know I got to record this message. I didn't have to record a message, but I recorded a message for our website telling everybody how we were going to do all these things to keep everybody safe, and we were going to keep the church open, and it was, the Lord is in control. And it was good. But it took me like 57 takes to try and record this 30-second message, such that I burned out my phone with battery. I ran out of battery. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I was like here for 3 hours. I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. So I come back Saturday morning, and Frank and Ginny were sanitizing the whole church, a little Clorox water mixture. Everything's clean. You're safe and secure. And everybody's gone. I said, okay, now I'm going to record this message. I got daylight coming through the panels, and I'm there, and I'm pressing the button, I'm recording, and I'm pressing the button, I'm recording, and it's 10 o'clock, it's 11 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock. I'm like, geez Louise, I got to get this thing done. Finally, I was tired. I said, I got so many things to still do, and I turned around, I was up there, I kneeled, and I'm looking at the cross, I'm like, Lord, I got to get this done. I got other things I got to do. I just got to get this done. And I turned around, I hit the phone, and I went through the whole message. Bang, done. And I said to myself, why didn't I do that last time? But, see, often the one thing missing to having our needs met is asking to have our needs met. And then when they're met, recognizing that our needs have just been met. Jesus says to this woman, I could give you a drink of water. This living water that would well up from within you to everlasting life. And she's just got questions. Like, why are you talking to me? How are you going to drill some water? And where do I get this water? Because now she's saying, well, okay, so I got living water. I'm not going to be thirsty anymore. That's great. I don't got to come to this well anymore. That's really great. And Jesus throws her a curve and says, I'll give you some water. Go get your husband and bring him back. Now, should be pretty easy, right? No. She says, I don't got a husband. Jesus, of course, looks into her heart. See, because he sees into our hearts and he knows our needs, right? We can try and skirt the issue. We can try and say, don't pay attention to this. But he says, you ain't got a husband. You had 5 husbands. And the one you got ain't your husband. So you're right. Now, you would think that maybe this would have resonated with her as, okay, time to own up and just be honest. No. see you're a prophet. And she changes the subject. Don't look at me. Don't look at my marriage. Don't look at my life. Let's talk about religion. You worship on this mountain. We worship on this mountain. And which is better? And Jesus drives home the point. He's like, look, there's going to come a time when it don't matter what mountain you're going to worship on, because God seeks people who will worship Him in truth, in spirit and in truth. And that's the way we need to approach Him. See, instead of just owning up and saying, Lord, you're right, I ain't got no husbands and I've had a miserable life, and can you please just help me out? She tries to change the subject to religion, right? Jesus changes the subject back to relationship. And He says, look, this isn't about where you worship. This is about how you worship. God is seeking people who will come to Him in a true spirit and in truth. And the only way to do that is to be honest with ourselves and with the Lord. To lay out there our needs and our concerns. And trust Him to fulfill those needs and concerns. To have our eyes and ears open so that when He actually answers our prayer and says, here's your answer, we'd say, wow, there it is. Maybe you've had this experience. I know I have. Lord, I have a need. Okay, here's your answer. No, that's not really the answer I want. See, that happens. Because sometimes we're not ready for the answer. And so He tells the woman, He said, look, you worship what you don't know. We worship what we know. Salvation comes through the Jews. Salvation comes through the Messiah. Salvation comes through the true living Word, which is not stagnant and non-changing. And that's what the Samaritans believed. They had a revelation that went back to Jacob, and they didn't really grow. They didn't believe that God would continue to talk to them. But here He was speaking to her in person and testifying that God continually comes into our lives, sees into our hearts, on our needs at that moment, in that time, among the chaos of our lives, and meets the need then. But do we recognize the answer? And then when we get the answer, she says, Lord, I know that we're going to get a Messiah, and when He comes, everything will be revealed. He'll tell us everything. And He says, I am He. Ta-da! Problem solved. Right there. Now, Scriptures, our reading today stops there. And so we don't get the rest of the story, which is kind of interesting. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek. But, do we recognize it? When the answer is right there in front of us, do we say, yeah, that's the answer. That's what I need to do? Or do we say, yes, that's the answer, but I don't want to do that. That's not good for me, for what I want. Our needs are temporal. God's answer is eternal. Our challenge is living in the temporal with the eternal perspective. Now, the sneak peek I'm talking about is that the very next moment in the next portion of the reading that comes just sentences later is that this woman in the well, who has just had her entire life peeled out before her, such that she can't deny what it is, goes and speaks to her community and says, you gotta come meet this guy. He just told me everything about me and still loves me, still accepts me. Come and see. And Scripture says that they do. And that lots of people come. And they believe. And Jesus stays there for days, preaching and teaching the Word and leading people to Christ, to Him, to salvation, to eternity. We don't get that in today's reading, but we're left with a question of how do we proceed? How do we deal with the needs and the desires of this life among, I'm going to call it what it is, the chaos of the world right now? The seemingly irrational perception of some that the world is about to end. How do we cope with that and reconcile that to what we know? Well, it's exactly what Jesus offered to the woman. He said, you stand before me. Bring yourself to God. Go to Him with a humble and contrite heart. Openly acknowledge your fears, your concerns, your needs, your desires. He hears those. And then trust that the Lord will continue to reveal to you His will for you in Him over time. What is today applicable and valuable and absolutely the right course of action for you may be entirely different just 2 or 3 years from now, maybe even weeks from now. We're going to be looking at things a whole lot differently than we are today. But the thing that will not have changed for us is that Christ's message of hope and salvation and forgiveness and acceptance is constant. It is the means by which you will leave this place today. And among the chicken littles of the world who are running around sure that the sky is falling, you will be that calm, peaceful voice that will absolutely draw a question. Just as the woman asked Jesus the question, what are you talking about? What water you got? People are going to say, why are you so calm? Why are you not freaking out? Why are you so peaceful and not buying every piece of toilet paper you can find? And you're going to get to tell them. You're going to get to tell them about the peace that you have in Jesus Christ. That if, heaven forbid, you were to have gotten corona, He's going to heal your corona. And if you have people in your neighborhood, maybe even your own family members, who are elderly, locked in, can't get around, can't do things, this is your opportunity to go to them. And not silly. Don't, go there and start wiping your nose all over them, But go there with proper precautions and the enduring and everlasting love that Jesus has instilled in you through the power of the Holy Spirit, and serve those people. Care for those people. Share the Word of God with those people, and they will find that appealing. And they will then tell somebody else, let me tell you about somebody who just came and helped me out. When nobody else wanted to touch me. Nobody else wanted to come around. Everybody else was locked in their houses, isolating themselves. But this person came and helped me, and they did it in the name of Jesus. God will answer all of your deepest needs, desires. He'll calm your fears. He'll lift your spirits. He will strengthen your resolve to be able to do that which seems impossible at a time when, to many, it seems irrational. But when you leave this place today, you will leave strengthened, renewed, and invigorated to live for Christ, so that you will go and share His Word, prepare the hearts of those around you, and care for others in Jesus' name. Amen. And may the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. This is the point at which we would normally